Comblain Pont stages its second World Trial event as the championship returns to Belgium for round 6 of the 2016 title race. An unusual one-day event means no room for error for the riders, with the championship rankings beginning to settle themselves and the series entering its final stretch. Lourdes became the latest new venue with its staging of the 42nd French Grand Prix, marking the midway point in the 2016 campaign. Damp and changeable weather conditions played into the hands of experienced stars in the podium positions, and the opening day of action was eventually cut short. Adam Raga sat third at the time of the abandonment, taking a 9th successive podium, but dropping back from the leaders after recording 3 lap 2.5s. Takehisa Fujinami impressed with a 4th top 3 finish of the season to consolidate his 3rd place overall. Main championship rivals Jaime Busto and Albert Cabastan both having days to forget outside of the top 5. But with his teammate in the mix, Tony Bow was the biggest winner, capitalising to the tune of 5 more points over Adam Raga in the series overall. A 6th consecutive victory, any signs of early season weakness well and truly washed away. Tony Bow struggled on the second day in France though, only snatching 3rd, just 2 sections from the end of the day, and after a tie with teammate Jaime Busto. Bow maintained his 2016 podium streak, with Busto dropping 8 marks in the final 4 sections and dropping to 4th. But it was a strong damage limitation ride for Bow, who saw main championship rival Adam Raga restricted to 2nd. Raga was the lap 1 leader but lost ground on the 3rd lap, eventually finishing 15 marks back from victory. An emphatic win for Takehisa Fujinami, with just 2 failed sections all day, a first such success since 2014. With Fujinami taking points from Adam Raga, Tony Bow made a further point on his main championship rival to sit 20 points clear, with only 5 days of competition remaining. Fujinami moved 1 step closer to his goal of 3rd place overall, with 16 points gained over Jaime Busto in France. The 2016 event is only the 2nd Belgian Grand Prix in a decade, and only 3 former winners take part. But there's nonetheless a deep history and affinity for the sport in the east of the country, where the majority of rounds have historically taken place. The town of Comblain has a population of little more than 5,000, but fans will travel for a rare glimpse of trial superstars in this remote location. The top 3 have pulled well clear from the remainder of the pack in the 2016 Trial 2 World Cup. But the podium finishers will leave the season with much more than their medals, gaining another year's experience towards the illustrious Trial GP category and the lifestyle of a professional rider. It's a great competition to learn what it is to compete. All of the riders are close, so it's an excellent way to learn riding under pressure.
Trial 2 is a perfect class to learn and learn. You can stay in for quite a lot of years, and there is a big step to the Trial GP, but yeah, I think this will help everyone to get to the top level.
It's good for me to get used to the non-stop regulations as well, because we don't have the chance to practice under these rules in the Spanish Championship, and it's also good to pick up on the level of the top riders.
Visiting all these different countries, like you say, I've visited 12 countries now, and it's just amazing to see these different countries and different environments.
When I started riding, I never thought I would get to this level, but it's very good to get the opportunity to come and see everywhere. Yeah, unbelievable to get this opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's really important to sort of stay in the Trial 2 class for as long as we can, and obviously try and get to the top of that before you move up into the top class Trial GP. The the jump from Trial 2 to Trial GP is absolutely massive, so if you can establish yourself in the Trial 2 class, it makes the jump a little bit easier.
With just 6 dropped points in 6 trials, Jack Price assumed a 36-point lead in the Trial 2 World Cup, with time running out for his rivals to make gains. Of his challengers, only Arnaud Faré had actually beaten Price since Japan. And coming into Belgium, the British rider sat 70 points short of confirmed victory, with 5 days in which to score them. Realistically, the main battle in the podium positions has for some time now been over second between Ewan Roberts and Arnaud Faré. The pair looked set to vie for the crown when they shared the spoils between them in Spain, but they've each managed just 3 podium finishes since then, while Price hasn't shown any weakness since the opening day of the season.
Se présenter en trial 2, 35 trial, 33 victoires. Que dire du palmarès de...
Dan Pease suffered his worst result since the opening day of the season as the race for 4th position in the World Cup intensified. The Japanese Grand Prix winner had been a double-figure scorer in each of the 5 previous days of competition coming into Belgium, with podium finishes in Germany and France. But Pease sat outside of the top 10 from the end of lap 1 and eventually finished 11th. The British rider only recorded 7 failed sections all day, but while rivals ahead of him tallied more, he took 6 3-mark scores that hampered his progress. Eventually just 3 marks back from the top 10, Pease benefited from similarly underwhelming performances from his main series contenders and the gap behind 5th place in the Cup coming into Belgium. But there'll be no further room for error as he goes into his home Grand Prix next time out. Since a strong opening to the season, Filippo Locca has failed to live up to expectations in 2016. And the Italian dropped further from the top 6 overall in Belgium. Locca held 8th position on the opening lap, 7 marks back from the podium positions, but his lap 2 performance dropped him down the standings to his eventual finishing place of 10th. Consistency has enabled him to maintain his World Cup ranking. He's been outside of the top 10 on just 1 occasion this season, but he's coming under increasing pressure from rivals behind as the season progresses. In Belgium, he notched a total of 18 clean sections that ranked with the top 6 riders, but he failed the largest number of sections of any of the point scorers in the trial, so was fortunate to record a top 10 finish. Gilles Chatagneau failed to take advantage of a disappointing day for Dan Pease as he finished just 9th. The Frenchman came into Belgium on the back of consecutive podium finishes in his home Grand Prix last time out that had followed another strong performance in Andorra. But his hopes of making further progress towards the top 3 overall were dashed in Belgium as he dropped 10 further back to 23 behind with only 2 remaining rounds. A poor start to the trial left Chatagneau with too much ground to recover. 2 strong 13-mark laps hauling him back up from 14th to finish in 9th behind fellow countryman Teo Calero in 8th. 5 of his total 7 failed sections were recorded on lap 1 and he left himself a massive 20 marks from the top 3 by the end of the first lap. And although the result left him level with Dan Pease in 4th overall, Pease leads the battle on countback and will benefit from the subtraction of his 2 lowest scores, leaving Chatagneau behind. It was a strong day for Great Britain's lower-ranked riders, with Toby Martin finishing 7th on his debut and Declan Bullock back among the double-figure scorers with 6th, to match his best finish of the season so far. Bullock suffered his worst performance of the campaign in France, but recovered well and now looks the best place of the chasing pack to take a top 10 place in the World Cup standings. With Benoit Bancaz out injured, Bullock and Spaniard Marc Ribas may have an opportunity to snatch 10th by the end of the campaign. But Ribas finished down in 19th in Belgium, and Bullock now sits 13 points clear of his rival. A total of 18 clean sections left him just 13 marks back from the podium in Belgium. And only a failure to improve on the final lap kept him back from the top positions after a strong second lap. Plenty of reasons for optimism ahead of his third British Grand Prix appearance next week.
Okay.
Pierre Sauvage has made an excellent recovery after missing the Japanese Grand Prix, with 4 double-figure scores in 6 subsequent trials and in a prime position to benefit from the subtraction of each rider's 2 worst rounds. Sauvage put in another top 6 performance in Belgium, although he'll have been disappointed to miss out on the podium after sitting second at the end of lap 1. A 19-mark second lap dropped him to 4th, and he could eventually only manage 5th place. A lack of clean sections cost the Frenchman. He managed only 19 compared to 25 for each of the 3 podium finishers, although he only finished 8 marks back from the top 3. Sauvage remains 8th in the World Cup standings, but realistically in a battle with Luca Petrella for 6th, with a net 8 points to recover. Luca Petrella took his best finish since the German Grand Prix, but dropped out of the top 3 positions midway around the final lap and fell just 2 marks short of the podium. The Italian suffered his worst performance of the campaign in France, so this was the type of result to put his season back on track. He'd been locked in a season-long battle with fellow countryman Filippo Locca for national supremacy, but now looks to have control of that contest. His battle on the day was with Pierre Sauvage, increasingly menacing from 8th in the standings overall. The Frenchman led Petrella on lap 1, but lost out by 6 marks at the finish. A 5th top 5 finish of the season closed the Italian to within 14 points of 4th position overall, although that may well prove too far to reach with only 2 rounds remaining. A target nonetheless, with his home Grand Prix still to come. Ewan Roberts followed up 2nd position in France with another podium finish in Belgium, but lost further ground on his 2 main championship rivals. The Welshman was 5th after lap 1, but boosted his scoring with a brilliant 3-mark 3rd lap to record a 5th podium finish of the campaign. Roberts had a net 30 points to recover against fellow countryman Jack Price as his nearest rival coming into round 7, and must now recover 35 points in only 4 days of competition. The number of failed sections was the differentiating factor in Belgium, with the top trio all finishing on 25 cleans. Roberts failed 2 on the first lap and already had a 12-mark margin to make up on the leader. Despite finishing 3rd, the British rider maintains a slender advantage from 2nd in the World Cup standings, with 2 rounds remaining. Arnaud Faré dropped back from the top 2 in the World Cup chase after a disappointing weekend in France, but made overall gains on main rival Ewan Roberts as the top 3 in the series took the podium positions in Belgium. A strong second lap helped the Spaniard to better Roberts. He already sat 2 marks up after lap 1 and comfortably defended 2nd from 12 marks up after a 5-mark second lap that was the best of anyone. Faré took a 5th podium finish of the season after leading a tight group separated by just 11 marks down to 5th place. A 12-mark final lap, though, stopped him from making any further progress towards victory and also dropped him to within 3 marks of Ewan Roberts in 3rd. 17 valuable championship points narrow the gap to 6 between 2nd and 3rd in the World Cup, but Faré will benefit from 2 2016 victories and sits a net 4 points behind Roberts once both riders have their lowest scores removed. Jack Price is just one victory away from World Cup glory after a second consecutive win. Price scored just 1 point at the last Belgian Grand Prix back in 2014, but continued to demonstrate his excellent progress in the sport with a supreme single-mark first lap to take control of the trial. There were only brief signs that he could be beaten, as Arnaud Ferré made up 4 marks on lap 2, but Price comfortably defended his 6-point lead and restored it to a 10-mark advantage on lap 3. With just one failed section all day, the British rider showed impressive consistency, never exceeding double figures on a single lap. The most that nearest rival Ewan Roberts can now score this season with his 2 lowest scores removed is 214. Price sits on 193 with 4 trials remaining. With his 6th victory in 11 trials, Price has one hand on the trophy. The top 3 in the championship take the top 3 positions in Belgium. Arnaud Ferré and Ewan Roberts continuing their season-long struggle, now over 2nd in the series. A strong debut for Toby Martin makes him one to watch for the forthcoming British Grand Prix.
Yeah, today's been really great. Obviously started very well. First lap of 1. Bit of a mixed second lap. But it was still in the lead, and then it was about bringing it home in the 3rd lap. Obviously really happy to take the win, and it's super good for the championship. So,
with underwhelming results for Dan Peace and Gaël Chatagneux, the mid-pack bunches up. Although the top 4 are all still in mathematical contention, only a dramatic reversal in fortunes could change the destination of the World Cup title. A 6th victory of the campaign for Jack Price gives him a 41-point lead and a chance to seal the crown in front of his home crowd in Great Britain next time out. Tony Bowe and Adam Raga have dominated the Trial World Championship for 9 consecutive seasons and look set to make it a 10th year in a row, locking out the top 2 positions in the final standings. Their intense competitive spirit hasn't dwindled in over a decade of battling in the World Championship. I met Tony in 2002 or 2003 when he started riding in the World Championship, and we became rivals in 2007 when he won his first championship. I had admired Adam since I was a child. Obviously he was already world champion and I didn't yet have the level to compete. But aside from that, a rival is a rival and we both give 100%. But my relationship with Adam, he's easy to get on with and we've learnt a lot from one another. The relationship hasn't changed much really. There's always been a lot of respect and a lot of rivalry in races. He's undoubtedly won many more championships, but it's always been a relationship of respect, where the best wins in the race and without any friction.
Siempre intentando que gane el mejor en la carrera y con pocos roces.
Adam has played an important role in that sense. He's such a fighter and he's carried on getting better, making me improve. The fact that he's such a complete rider has made me more complete as well. And I would say he makes me approach races in a different way, a better way, more professionally. And that's made all my results better. If Tony hadn't been around, I would have won a lot more titles, but I'm very happy with what I've achieved in trials, because I've fought for many years right at the top. Since 2001, when I won my first World Championship race, right through to today I've won races, which I think is a great path, and I'm still fighting to win. It's always difficult to stay at the top. Having a rival like Adam, and the same with him for me, makes you train, gives you motivation and a desire to be the best. Improving one another every year is what has kept us at the top for so many years. My objective is to beat him. He makes that very difficult, but I've beaten him in the Spanish Championship, for example in 2010. That's never been achieved in the World Championship, So that's my target and what I work towards.
Este es nuestro objetivo y para eso trabajamos.
Even if Adam beats me, our rivalry won't finish. I would keep fighting. At the end of the day, Adam is 4 years older than me, so you'd expect him to retire before me. We'll remain rivals. If he beats me 1 year, then we'll fight back to win the next year. It's obvious that winning 9 consecutive seasons is a lot. It's never really happened in any sport. So even if I lose 1 year, I would want to keep fighting, enjoying the sport as I do, and fight for more championships. Albert Gabastan provided the main challenge to Tony Bow, and Adam Ragger's continued dominance at the top of the standings in Belgium. Experience played a crucial role in a technically challenging trial, with the podium finishers eventually separated by just 10 marks. Three separate championship battles are still to be decided in the 3 final rounds of the campaign. In the race for the last of the top 10 positions, Frans Kadlec held a 6-point lead over Mikel Jalabert and Eddie Carlson, 5 points behind fellow Gas runner Matteo Grattarola in 9th. Jorge Casales opened an 8-point lead over the Italian to sit best of the rest, albeit 35 points back from the lead group coming into Belgium. We had a pretty difficult start to the championship. Problems with the bike and myself as well. Just failing to adapt to the rhythm of the races. Last week in Lourdes in France was quite positive, and I think we're in a strong position for this weekend. I do have a knee injury, which means I'm still not at 100%, but we'll do what we can. Alexander Ferrer sat 24 points behind 10th place coming into Belgium, and a full 10 positions behind teammate Albert Gabastan. The veteran Spaniard still tied into a battle for 3rd in the championship. The perennial race for 6th has appeared increasingly settled between the 2 Vertigo riders, with Jeroni Fajardo getting the better of James Dable in 3 of the last 4 trials, and 9 points clear with 5 days of action remaining. But an injury to Fajardo threatened even his participation in Belgium after he missed a round of the Spanish Championship to recover from a French Grand Prix crash. A fall on the first day of the race in France seemed like quite a small one, but in reality it affected me more than we thought it would. It caused a neck injury which stopped me from riding. I haven't even been able to train. The doctors were amazed I was able to ride on the Sunday, but with a lot of physiotherapy, anti-inflammatories and medication, I've made some progress.
Más o menos con mucho fisio, osteópata, medicamentos antiinflamatorios, así hemos ido avanzando.
It's just a shame to have had 3 weeks off the bike, but I feel pretty good. Physically, I've more or less recovered, but my bike fitness isn't at its best because I haven't been able to train.
Bueno, pues mi forma en moto no es la mejor, ¿no? Debido a no haber podido entrenar estos días.
As Fajardo's hopes of retaining his world number 3 status have faded, Takehisa Fujinami's ambitions have grown. The Japanese rider comfortable in 3rd overall after a sensational win in France. Teammate Jaime Busto dropped 16 points at round 6 to trail by 17 in total coming into Belgium. I'm very happy with such a great last race and the victory. It will be difficult to carry on like that for wins, but I have a lot of confidence and I'm in good condition, so I think a podium is possible. Beaten by Fujinami on both days in France, Adam Ragger nonetheless retained a comfortable 33-point buffer from 2nd, but with time increasingly short to chase down championship leader Tony Bow. The reigning champion held a 20-point lead with 5 trials remaining, and Raga would be relying not only on beating Bo regularly, but on the favourite missing out on the podium in remaining rounds to damage his hopes. The trial was scheduled in the classic 12-section format, but 3 different sections had to be abandoned at different stages during the day, giving an eventual total of 33 sections for the riders to determine their positions. With a course length almost 3 times that of the French Grand Prix in Lourdes, time would also be a factor in a real marathon trial. Ole Christian Sorensen's wait for championship points in 2016 continued as he finished at the back of the pack in Belgium. The Norwegian scored a total of 13 points in a smaller field last season, but with a stronger midfield this campaign has regularly been left chasing.
Well, the first lap was a bit hard in the beginning. I have to get used to a new clutch and everything. But after a few sections we got more good riding, and in the beginning of second round it was even better. It was and now we're in the end of second lap, and the riding is just getting better and better, and we're happy so far, I think. We're pushing forward.
Sorensen was already 7 marks back from his nearest rival at the end of the opening lap, and eventually finished on a total of 151 marks, 29 failed sections and just 3 cleans. Double Norwegian champion Håkon Pedersen finished 27 marks back from the last of the championship point-scoring positions and remains scoreless in 2016. Pedersen continues to better Sorensen in their personal duel for national pride, but the battleground is some way back from the rest of the championship regulars. Pedersen put in a much more competitive 2015 season, beating riders such as Paul Thérèse and Francesc Moret, but with Thérèse having retired from the sport and the lower order shallower this season, Pedersen has been well adrift of a competitive midfield. He's also contending with new machinery in 2016 after making the switch from Ossa to GasGas after 3 seasons. Nonetheless, with both Sorensen and Pedersen taking part regularly in Trial GP, Norway will be better placed to challenge in the Trial of Nations come September.
Il s'agit de Håkon Pedersen. Voilà. Et donc vous marquez à l'instant.
Frans Kadlec suffered his worst performance of the season, and his top 10 status is now in doubt coming into the final 2 rounds of the season. The German rider has generally been consistent in 2016 and never out of the top 13 positions until the Belgian Grand Prix. He battled through the day to finish in a 3-rider pack, tussling over 13th position, but a slow start to the trial had left him too much ground to recover. Kadlec was 11 marks back from the top 10 by the end of lap 1, and only 3 marks in front of Håkon Pedersen in the early stages. And although he made gradual improvements during the day, he failed 7 sections at every attempt and was unable to make up enough ground for a more competitive result. The single championship point does at least leave him inside of the top 10 overall. Loris Goubion came into the Belgian Grand Prix on the back of his best result of the campaign, a 7th position finish at his home Grand Prix in Lourdes. The Frenchman continued to ride with a wrist injury at round 7 and appeared to suffer as the day went on. 10th at the end of lap 1 and in the battle for 8th place on the day, Goubion suffered a points collapse on lap 2, hemorrhaging 48 marks and dropping to 14th. He only kept back Frans Kadlec by 2 marks with an identical lap 3 total to the German, thanks to his strong start to the day. Goubion leaves Belgium no further back from the top 10 overall, but 16 championship points may well prove too many to recover with only 4 rounds remaining and an average score of 3 points per round. After taking an early season lead over Alexandre Ferrer, Goubion will also have to watch out for his fellow countrymen in the battle for national pride and 13th in the championship. Miguel Nogueira enjoyed the 5th point-scoring weekend of his debut campaign, beating Loris Goubion on countback and Franz Kadlec by 2 marks to secure 3 championship points. Despite his best return since the German Grand Prix, Nogueira remains at the back of the Trial GP regulars, down in 16th, 9 points behind retired fellow Spaniard Pol Terres. But he enjoyed another consistent performance and only finished 7 marks back from the top 10. Fourteenth at the end of lap 1, Nogueira benefited from Loris Goubion's second lap struggles to lead the Frenchman by 5 marks into the closing stages. Goubion made up the lost ground, but lost out on countback with only 4 clean sections to 7 for Nogueira. More challenging sections continue to pose the youngster problems. He failed the same 7 sections as Franz Kadlec at every attempt. But he's minimising errors elsewhere to remain in touch with a strong 2016 midfield. Jorge Casales enjoyed his best weekend of the season at the French Grand Prix, but failed to follow it up with an 8th top 10 finish of the campaign, despite a strong start to the trial. Casales set 8th after the opening lap, but his 3rd lap was the worst of any of the point-scoring riders and dropped him back to 12th. Jorge has quite a strong pain in his leg from a fall last week. He can't ride 100% as he wants, but he's done a lot of nice things on the bike, and we have confidence that quite soon he will get a good result.
Muchas cosas muy bonitas, tenemos confianza que muy pronto arriba a llegar un buen resultado.
Casales only finished 2 marks back from 10th at the end of the trial, but withdrew a lost mark on time at a 40-mark second lap as contributing factors to falling short of the top 10. The Spaniard has been consigned to a battle for 8th in the championship since a 1-point score in the Japanese Grand Prix, and he maintains his ranking with 2 rounds remaining. Matteo Grattarola missed out on 10th position on countback to finish 11th in Belgium, a disappointing return after a more promising display at the French Grand Prix. A 46-mark second lap cost Grattarola dearly, as he'd been in contention for a top 10 position in the early stages, and he rode a good final lap to put himself back into the race for the top 10. But a lack of clean sections, he recorded only 6 all day, halted his progress beyond 11th. Beating direct championship rival Jorge Casales gives Grattarola 1 point back on the Spaniard in the race for 8th overall, but the Italian would have preferred to take advantage of a bad day for Casales with a better performance, with 7 points still between them overall. Mikel Jalabert bettered championship rival Franz Kadlec for the 2nd trial in succession, as he made up further ground in the battle for 10th overall. The Spaniard sits just 1 point behind 11th overall, having enjoyed a mid-season resurgence and a clear step up in performance after the 2 opening rounds. Jalabert was consistent through the day in Belgium, gaining positions from 13th at the end of lap 1 as others around him in the standings slipped up. Several sections proved beyond his reach as he notched a total of 20 fiascos, but with a creditable 9 cleans and only the occasional dab, Jalabert minimised unnecessary errors to take a 4th top 10 finish of the season. Alexander Ferrer enjoyed his season's best result in Belgium as the subdued 2016 continues for the Frenchman. The Sherco rider's final lap gave him 9th position, recovering from 11th at the end of lap 1 to only his 3rd top 10 finish of the season. Ferrer had sat behind Loris Goubion, his main rival in the championship battle for 13th, by a mark on the opening lap. But as Goubion fell backwards, Ferrer took advantage and now sits just 5 points behind the Beta rider with 2 rounds remaining. The number of cleans was the differentiating factor on the fringes of the top 10. Ferrer managed 10, Jalabert 9 and Grattarola 11th with just 6. But Ferrer was never really in contention for a higher position. A 36 mark second lap leaving him 26 marks back from the top 6 coming into the final lap. Eventually 6 marks clear of Michael Jalabert, Ferrer can at least celebrate more progress through the rankings and an opportunity to overhaul Goubion in the remaining rounds. Eddie Carlson gained 7 points on Franz Kadlec in his quest for a place in the top 10 in the 2016 championship, and now sits only 7 behind the German heading into the season's finishing straight. The Swede has been inconsistent in 2016, with 2 non-scoring trials and a mere 5 points from 2 days of action in a disappointing French Grand Prix performance. But this was one of his better efforts on a day where battling through sections made the difference in the mid-pack. Carlson fought through a total of 19 sections, 5 of them with 3 mark tallies. By minimising his number of fiascos, Carlson was inside the top 10 from the opening lap, and he moved up to 8th when Jorge Casales slipped back, the Swedes simply continuing in the same vein and improving marginally on the final lap to give his advantage over his middle-order rivals a more emphatic look. Now Carlson will need to put in more performances like this one to replicate his 2015 finish of 10th. James Dable sits an isolated 7th in the 2016 championship standings, and as if to justify that ranking, finished an isolated 7th in the Belgian Grand Prix as well. 12 marks clear of Eddie Carlson behind, but 11 marks from the back of the podium-chasing pack. Dable could make no impression on the front-running positions. The British rider was one of 15 riders to fail Section 8 at every attempt. There was a bit of complication there because the observers moved some stones. In the end, everyone went through it with a 5 and they cancelled the section. The section is back in for the second lap, but they've left it the same with no changes, and some of the riders have decided to take a 5. Only 7 marks back from the top 3 at the end of lap 1. Dable's scores worsened slightly from lap to lap, but was still comfortably strong enough to keep him in place for another 9 championship points. The score now means a 40-point gap to Jorge Casales behind, but further lost points in the battle with teammate Gironi Fajardo, who appears out of reach. Jaime Busto has made a 2016 habit of near misses against the podium positions, but he finished 13 marks back from the top 3 in Belgium. The Belgian Grand Prix was Busto's worst in his World Cup title-winning 2014 season, and it's amazing to think that only 2 years later, it's a surprise to see him down in 6th in Trial GP. 4th in the championship overall, Busto's wait for a first top-flight podium continues. He was 5 marks back at the end of the opening lap and gradually dropped further out of contention to 13 marks from the top 3 by the end of the day. His 6th place finish keeps him in touch for 3rd overall, with time running out for him to make a late charge. A stone has been moved, and when a big stone moves or falls a bit, a section is cancelled automatically. On a day where levels of technical difficulty were high, 5 sections in particular causing real headaches for all of the riders, experience was key. That will only come with time for Busto, who seems ever closer to a real breakthrough at this level.
T'as vu le temps qu'il a fallu pour redémarrer ça?
Takehisa Fujinami arrived in Belgium full of confidence after a brilliant weekend and shock victory in the French Grand Prix. The Japanese rider was a podium contender once again in the 7th round of the series and sat just 2 marks from the lead at the end of lap 1. Surprises in the early stages of the Belgian Grand Prix.
No stop, mais hop, plan doucement, speed, no, là, yeah.
Gironi Fajardo sat a single mark ahead of Fujinami at the end of lap 1 and second. Looking for his second podium finish of the campaign after a 3rd place in Andorra, Fajardo arrived at the Belgian Grand Prix 6th in the standings, and almost 30 points back from the championship top 3. We arrived from France, where Gironi had a neck injury. He's been working with physios and doctors, and we finally returned to competition. The sections here are similar to the last trials, hard work and slippery. There are some easier sections where you just can't afford to fail, and then the more difficult ones where it's just about getting through. Fujinami failed to capitalise on his strong lap 1 performance, a 22-mark second lap dropping him 2 marks from the provisional podium, and he eventually finished 5th after conceding 2 marks on time. But with main championship rival Jaime Busto finishing behind, Fujinami's lead in the battle for 3rd overall actually increased by a point, and he now sits 18 points clear with 2 rounds remaining. Like Fujinami, Fajardo also slipped back by a position on lap 2 as he dropped to 3rd, and he conceded the last step of the podium in cruel fashion in the final 2 sections of the day. A 5-mark score in the last section after almost 6 hours of competition, dropping him to 4th. It was nonetheless another strong performance from Fajardo after recovery from injury, and one which moved him closer to both Fujinami and Busto in their battle for 3rd overall. Round 1 winner Albert Cabestan arrived in Belgium in a slump on a run of 5 trials without a podium finish. But he made it back into the top 3 thanks to a strong start to the day and mistakes from his rivals. Cabestan held the lead of the trial and threatened a surprise in the early stages, with both Tony Bow and Adam Raga outside of the top 3 positions at the end of the opening lap. Both Raga and Bow failed 3 sections on the opening lap, Cabestan and Fajardo leading early on with 2 apiece. After finally getting the better of Bow for the first time in 7 trials in France, Raga hoped to replicate his success and keep faint World Championship hopes alive. With With just 3 defeats in 10 days of competition in 2016, Tony Beau has moved ever closer to an incredible 10th world title since shaking off his early season injury worries. But Beau was uncharacteristically restricted to 3rd on day 2 in France after a slow start to the trial and was only 4th after lap 1 in Belgium. Albert Cabestan dropped from 1st to 5th in the space of 12 sections with a 25-mark second lap. His day in some ways mirrored his championship fight. Dropping back from an initial lead, he had to fight back in the race for 3rd. In Belgium, he recovered to the podium, running clean in the final 4 sections, while Gironi Fajardo dropped 7 marks and out of the top 3. And Fujinami failed section 12 and accrued 2 marks on time to drop behind as well. 3rd position for Cabestan moves him to within 20 points of Fujinami in the championship table and to within 2 points of Jaime Busto in 4th. Adam Raga moved 2nd at the end of lap 2, but was unable to make any progress from there. The critical moment in Raga's day was a failure in section 12 of the 2nd lap, when he held a slender lead in the trial but dropped behind Beau, before 2 further fiascos in the first 3 sections of the final lap gave his rival a commanding advantage. He never surrendered.
Okay now, comme ça. Yeah, okay.
More dramas for Adam Raga on what turned out to be a challenging day for all of the top riders.
D'aperçoit Adam Raga. On a 11 titres de champion du monde. Fujinami, je pense.
In the end, Beau's victory margin looked emphatic, with Raga dropping 2 marks on time to finish 10 back. But in reality, Beau had relied on errors for his rivals. A poor second lap for Cabestan, Raga's unexpected section 12 failure, whilst maintaining his own consistency to recover from 4th to 1st. With 7, the same number of 5s as Takehisa Fujinami in 5th, and only 1 better than Adam Raga, it was in minimising other errors that Beau won this trial. A massive 21 clean sections compared to only 4 for Adam Raga, the difference between the two. A close run trial in the top 5 positions, with rankings changing right through to the final section. A separate battle for the top 10 places further down the order. It was a challenging day. I'm happy to be on the podium. A bit of a shame because of being tied in 2nd with Adam. In a section where I scored 1, at first they gave me 5, then they changed it to 3, I don't know why. I arrived 2nd and was given a paper that said 5, I don't understand it at all. It's a shame that this cost me 2nd place, but I'm satisfied that I've found the right way forward, and now I need to carry on this way. I'm very happy with 2nd position. It's been a difficult day and a lot went on. In the end, finishing 2nd on a day when you've quite a lot of problems is positive. It's been a difficult day, a very strange race for everyone. In some of the difficult sections, the stones were moving because it was very slippery. It was difficult to make advantages. I caused myself a bit of damage on the first lap, which made it complicated early on. So I'm satisfied with this fantastic result. Alexander Ferrer climbing above Paul Thérèse is the only change to the championship rankings in Belgium, but battle for 3rd and 10th positions closed up slightly to provide 2 deciding rounds in Great Britain and Italy. A 3rd podium of the season is the most noteworthy of the top 3 performances in Belgium, because Beau's dominance has become a regular feature of 2016, and he looks increasingly just a matter of time from a 10th world title.